Welcome to today's lesson on classification systems in biology. Our goal for today is to understand the Linnaean system and to explore the impact of recent developments in biology on how we classify living organisms. In today's lesson, we will start by looking at the Linnaean system, its structure, and how it is used to classify organisms. We will then discuss how new discoveries and advances in biology, such as DNA technology, have influenced and changed these classification systems over time, looking at the three-domain system and the binomial system. So far, you have learned about evolution and speciation. Evolution is the process through which species change over time, and speciation is the formation of new and distinct species in the course of evolution. This knowledge is foundational because it helps us understand why organisms are grouped together based on their similarities and differences, and how they have evolved over time. Building on this foundation, today's concepts will advance our biological understanding by showing how our classification systems have evolved with the growth of scientific knowledge. The Linnaean system, established in the 18th century, laid the groundwork for biological classification, but modern techniques, such as genetic analysis, are now refining and sometimes redefining these groups. This evolution in classification helps us to understand the relationships between different organisms more accurately and provides a clearer picture of the complexity of life on Earth. Let's get started. To begin our exploration into classification, let's look at the Linnaean system, which was first proposed by Carl Linnaeus in the 1700s. This system organizes living organisms into hierarchical groups based on their physical and structural characteristics. The broadest category in this system was originally the kingdom. Organisms within a kingdom share some basic similarities. As we move down through the levels, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species, the groups become more specific, meaning that organisms within these groups share more and more features. This hierarchical structure helps scientists categorize and understand the relationships and evolutionary history of different organisms. You can remember the order of these classifications using the acronym King Philip came over for good soup. Let's look at how this system works in practice with the example of a lion. Consider the classification of a lion. Its kingdom is Animalia, phylum is Chordata, class is Mammalia, order is Carnivora, family is Felidae, genus is Panthera, and finally the species is Leo. The further down the hierarchy you go, the more similar the organisms are to each other. This system is widely used to identify and differentiate between millions of species on Earth. For many years, the five-kingdom system was widely accepted. However, in 1990, Carl Woese introduced a revolutionary new system that divides all life into three domains based on advanced chemical analysis and RNA sequencing. These domains are Archaea, bacteria, and Eukaryota. Archaea are primitive bacteria that often live in extreme environments, such as hot springs and salt lakes. Despite their similarities to bacteria, they have distinct biochemical and genetic properties. Bacteria are also known as true bacteria. These include familiar types, like E. coli and Staphylococcus. They are distinguished from Archaea by significant biochemical differences. Eukaryota includes all organisms with complex cells, such as fungi, plants, animals, and protists. Eukaryotic cells have a defined nucleus and other specialized structures. This three-domain system introduces another level to our classification system, updating the original Linnaean system. We can remember it using the following mnemonic: Dear King Philip came over for good soup. If we return to our example of the lion, the new Linnaean system also classifies the domain of the lion, which is Eukaryota. Classification also involves naming species in a systematic way to avoid confusion. The binomial system provides each species with a unique two-part Latin name. The first part of this name is the genus, and the second part is the species. For example, humans are identified as Homo sapiens, where Homo is the genus and sapiens is the species. Let's cover some rules of practice. The binomial name should be written in italics. The first word, genus, should have its first letter capitalized, and the second word, species, should not be capitalized. Initially, organisms were classified based on their morphology, physical form, and anatomy. internal structure. However, as our understanding of the biological sciences has grown, so too has the complexity and accuracy of our classification systems. Advances in microscope technology have allowed scientists to observe finer details in cell structures. Studies of biochemical processes have revealed additional ways to classify organisms based on metabolic functions, such as the types of enzymes they use. Perhaps the most significant development has been DNA sequencing. By comparing the genetic material of different organisms, scientists can determine how closely related they are. For instance, two species with very similar DNA sequences are more closely related than species with very different DNA sequences. Let's work through a question to consolidate our knowledge. What are the two levels missing from this classification? Pause here to have a go. Now let's go through it. Remember the acronym for classification Dear King Philip came over for good soup. These words represent domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. The two missing levels in this classification, and between phylum and between order and genus. These are class and family. Therefore, the James's flamingo is in the class Aves and the family Phenacopteridae. In today's lesson, we explored the Linnaean system of classification and how advances in biology have shaped classification systems over time. We began with the old Linnaean system, which organizes organisms into hierarchical groups based on shared traits, from kingdom down to species. Originally based on observable traits like morphology, the older Linnaean system was useful but limited, especially for organisms that don't fit neatly into categories based solely on physical characteristics. We then discussed how modern biology, particularly genetics and molecular biology, has revolutionized classification. DNA sequencing now allows for more accurate classifications, sometimes leading to the reclassification of organisms based on genetic similarities rather than just physical traits, as seen in the three-domain system which updated the Linnaean system. We also looked at how the binomial system provides a systematic way of naming species. This lesson provides a foundation for understanding the evolution of biological taxonomy and the ongoing efforts to map the tree of life with greater precision.